When the night opens its eyes, have you ever noticed how the world feels different at 2 a.m.? Not just quieter, but almost as if it's holding its breath. The streets are still. The clocks tick a little louder, and in that pause between dreams and daylight, something stirs inside you. Perhaps you've experienced it. You wake up suddenly, not startled, not afraid, just awake. The house is asleep. The world is asleep. But you are not. You lie there, staring at the soft outline of the ceiling. Your mind begins to wander. Should you check the time? Should you get up? A whisper of worry floats in. Why does this keep happening? Some say this kind of waking is a problem, a symptom of age or stress or something broken in our sleep cycle. But what if that's not the full story? Let's pause here for a moment. What if waking in the night isn't a failure, but an invitation? You see, in Buddhist thought, not everything that appears to disturb us is meant to be avoided. Sometimes, what interrupts our comfort does so for a reason. Sometimes, the night opens its eyes because there is something within us that longs to be heard. There's a quiet kind of wisdom that only reveals itself in the hours when the world is asleep. A space where the noise of the day has faded, and all that's left is your breath, your body, and the silence. And within that silence, something sacred waits. Tonight, we'll walk gently into that space together. We'll explore not just how to return to sleep, but how to return to ourselves. Because maybe the real rest we need isn't just physical. Maybe it's spiritual, emotional, a soft surrender, not just to sleep, but to peace. So if you've ever found yourself wide awake at 2 a.m., wondering what's wrong with you, stay with me. Maybe nothing is wrong at all. Maybe, just maybe, the night is trying to show you something. Part 1. Waking in the middle of the night is not a problem. There's a common belief, quiet but persistent, that waking in the middle of the night means something has gone wrong. Maybe it's your age, maybe it's your stress, maybe it's your body betraying you. And so when your eyes blink open at 2:15 a.m. and you find yourself staring into the hush of the dark, the first thing that arises is worry. But let's stop right there. What if this nighttime awakening isn't a malfunction, but a message? In Buddhist thought, the moments that we instinctively resist often hold the richest teachings. A distraction, a delay, a disturbance, all can become doorways to greater awareness if we stop fighting and start listening. So when you wake in the night, instead of labeling it as a problem to solve, try thinking of it as a visitor, a gentle knock at the door of your consciousness, inviting you to notice something, perhaps not out there, but in here. I once knew an elderly man, let's call him Mr. Harold, who had trouble staying asleep. Every night, like clockwork, he would rise from his slumber around 2:30. At first he cursed it. He thought something was wrong with his health, or his medications, or his mattress. But after months of frustration, he stopped resisting. He stopped turning on the lights. He stopped checking the time. Instead, he began simply lying there, listening. He listened to the rhythm of his breath, to the occasional creak of his old wooden house, to the distant hoot of an owl in the trees behind his window. And over time, he noticed that those middle-of-the-night hours, once filled with anxiety, had become sacred. He began to think of them as his hour of remembering, a time when he would recall old memories, silently pray for those he loved, or just be still with himself in a way the busy daytime never allowed. You see, as we grow older, our bodies change. This is the law of impermanence, anicca, that the Buddha so often spoke of. Our sleep becomes lighter, more fragmented. But that doesn't mean it's broken. It means it's transforming. And perhaps so must we. Science too offers us a soft reassurance. It's perfectly natural for older adults to wake once, or even several times, throughout the night. The drop and rise in core body temperature, the change in melatonin, the shorter periods of deep sleep. These are all part of a rhythm, not a rupture. The problem isn't the waking. The problem is the story we tell ourselves about it. So the next time you find yourself stirring at 2 a.m., consider this. Maybe your body isn't failing you. Maybe it's offering you a pause, a breath, a space to return, not to panic, but to presence. Because in the stillness of the night, when the world has turned its face away, what remains is you, just you, and the breath, and the beating heart that still keeps time. And maybe, just maybe, that's not a problem at all. Part 2. Don't resist the night. Breathe with it. There is a quiet suffering that comes not from what happens, but from how we respond to it. In the stillness of night, it's not the waking that disturbs our peace. It's the resistance, the tight grip we form around the thought, this shouldn't be happening. The subtle war we declare against the dark, and yet, night has no quarrel with us. It simply is. So often when we find ourselves awake at 3 a.m., our first instinct is to react, to reach for the phone, to glance at the glowing numbers on the clock, to turn on the light, to stir the stillness. But with each action, we move further away from rest, not because of the light itself or the phone itself, but because of what those things symbolize: a rejection of the moment, a refusal to be with what is. In Buddhist practice, there's a beautiful teaching known as being with what is, not fixing, not fleeing, just being, accepting that right now, this is where we are. And in that acceptance, a surprising thing often happens. Our suffering softens, our breath returns, the moment loses its edges. Let me tell you a small story. An elderly woman I once met, I'll call her Clara, shared something that stayed with me. She told me about the night she stopped fighting her insomnia. One evening, she found herself staring at the clock, frustrated, restless, blaming her age, her arthritis, the noise outside. And then she remembered something her grandmother used to say: if you can't sleep, let the night hold you anyway. So that night, instead of getting up, Clara pulled the covers up to her chin and whispered to herself, "I'm not sleeping, but I'm still resting. I'm still safe." She closed her eyes and simply listened to her breath, to the hush of the air around her, to the quiet murmur of her own heart. She said it was the first time in years she felt peaceful at 3 a.m. From that night on, she kept a small phrase beside her bed: "Don't resist the night, breathe with it." And that is the lesson here. When we resist the night, we harden. But when we breathe with it, we soften. We come back to our natural rhythm. We return to presence. The breath becomes not just a biological act, but a spiritual anchor. In Buddhist meditation, the breath is often called the bridge between the body and the mind, the raft that carries us across the river of restlessness. So if you find yourself awake in the night, before you reach for anything, reach for your breath. Inhale softly, exhale slowly. No force, no control, just presence. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Just be here. Awake, yes, but not anxious. Alert, but not alarmed. Held by the darkness, not haunted by it. And in that sacred stillness, perhaps sleep will find its way back to you, or perhaps something even more precious will arise. A deep, silent peace. Part 3. The breath, a doorway to calm. There's something profoundly sacred about the breath. It is the first thing we are given in life, and the last thing we release. Between those two moments, breath carries us through every sorrow, every joy, every silent hour we do not speak of. And yet, how often do we truly notice it? In Buddhist practice, the breath is more than just a function of survival. It is a gateway, a path, a living thread that connects the body to the mind and the mind to the present moment, especially in the still and tender hours of night, when the world around us is asleep and the mind begins to stir. The breath can become a gentle guide, leading us back to ourselves. Let me share with you a moment I will never forget. A woman named Rose, 81, soft-spoken, with silver hair that caught the afternoon light like moonbeams, once told me that for decades she struggled with sleeplessness. Worry, she said, was her constant companion. It would creep in after midnight, uninvited, whispering about the past, the future, the people she'd lost. But everything changed for her the night she discovered the 4-7-8 breath. I didn't think it would work, she laughed. It sounded too simple, but then again I figured, what did I have to lose? She lay still that night, placed one hand over her heart, closed her eyes, inhaled gently for 4 seconds, held it for 7, and then exhaled slowly for 8. At first she felt nothing, but after a few cycles, something shifted. Her heart stopped racing, her thoughts lost their grip, and for the first time in years, she felt her body let go, soften, surrender. What Rose didn't know at the time, but what the Buddha might have smiled at, is this: where the breath goes, the mind follows. So why does this technique work so well? Physiologically, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of us responsible for rest, digestion, recovery. It slows the heart rate, lowers blood pressure, tells the body, you are safe now. And on a deeper level, it draws our attention away from the spinning wheel of thoughts, anchoring us in the rhythm of life itself. When you breathe with intention, slowly, deeply, with awareness, you're not just calming your body, you're entering meditation. You're turning inward, gently and without judgment. You're touching a place that is untouched by fear, untouched by restlessness, a still point within the storm. Try it the next time you wake in the night. Don't rush, don't try to fall asleep. Instead, just breathe. 4, 7, 8, again and again, like the ebb and flow of a quiet tide. With each exhale, imagine your worries drifting further away. With each inhale, feel peace return to your chest. You don't have to force anything, you only need to allow. Because sometimes, it's not about chasing sleep, it's about creating space for it to return on its own. And the breath, simple, ancient, faithful, will always show you the way. Part 4. When the mind wanders, give it a path to walk. There's an old saying in Zen: the mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. Nowhere is this more true than in the middle of the night, when silence blankets the house and you lie awake. Not because your body refuses to rest, but because your mind simply won't sit still. You know the feeling. One moment you're lying quietly, hoping for sleep to return. The next, your mind begins its parade. Thoughts about yesterday's conversations, that one thing you forgot to do, an old memory, a new worry. And before long, your inner world becomes louder than the world outside. But here's the thing, the mind isn't trying to harm us. It's simply doing what it has learned to do: move, anticipate, analyze, plan. The problem arises not because the mind wanders, but because we follow it blindly, without a guide. In Buddhism, we don't try to silence the mind through force. We don't scold it, nor do we shame ourselves for being unable to sleep. Instead, we offer the mind something gentle to focus on, something that steadies it, like placing a candle in the wind. One of the most surprising and effective techniques I've seen, especially for older adults, is a simple counting practice, counting backwards from 300 by threes. It sounds mechanical, maybe even silly at first, but it works, because it gives your mind just enough to do, just enough structure to keep it from spinning out. Imagine this: you wake up, you breathe softly, The room is quiet, and in your mind you begin. 300, 297, 294, 291. The numbers come slowly. You might lose track. That's okay. You begin again. There is no pressure, no finish line, just the rhythm, like beads slipping through your fingers. This practice isn't about mathematics. It's about mindfulness. Each number becomes a step on a small inward path, one that leads not out into worry, but down into stillness. Like a monk slowly walking through a dark forest, each count grounds you more deeply in the present moment. A woman named Evelyn, now in her 70s, once shared how this practice changed her nights. "It gives my mind something kind to hold," she said. "I used to dread the quiet, because that's when all the noise inside me would come. But now the counting gives me a rope to hold on to until I drift away again. And that's the beauty of it. This isn't a trick, it's a tenderness, a way of gently guiding your awareness away from the shadows of thought, without judgment, without effort. You are not trying to shut your mind off. You are simply offering it a more peaceful direction, because when the mind has a path to walk, one made of breath, numbers and intention, it eventually tires of wandering. And in that soft surrender, sleep may come or not, but either way, you are no longer lost. You are at home within yourself. Part 5. Relaxing the body. Like a flower unfolding at night, sometimes even when the mind begins to quiet, the body still holds on. It clenches, it stiffens, it remembers every burden we've carried, every errand we rushed to complete, every moment we sat too long, every ache we ignored during the day. And when night falls, it doesn't just shut down with the flick of a switch. It whispers, it holds tension like an old friend. You see, many older adults don't just lie awake with racing thoughts. They lie awake in bodies that don't quite know how to let go. But there is a practice, gentle, intentional, deeply human, that can help ease this. It's called progressive muscle relaxation, and though it may sound like a clinical term, it is, in its essence, an act of loving kindness toward your own body, a way to speak the language of rest, one muscle at a time. Picture this: you're lying in bed, the room is dim, your breath is slow, you begin with your feet. You tense your toes gently, just enough to feel them, and then you release. The tightness loosens, like a knot softly unraveling. You move to your calves. Again you hold, you breathe, you let go. Slowly, patiently, you move upward through your thighs, your abdomen, your chest, your shoulders, your face. Each muscle listens. Each part of you begins to exhale what it has been holding. I once heard a monk describe this practice as allowing the body to bloom in the dark. And isn't that a beautiful image? A flower does not unfold by force. It opens in its own rhythm, in its own time, drawn not by pressure, but by stillness, by warmth, by trust. There was an elderly man named Thomas who told me something that I've never forgotten. "I didn't realize," he said, "how much my body was trying to protect me, even in my sleep." He had lived through decades of worry, of caregiving, of always being strong for others. Even at night, his shoulders curled forward, his jaw tightened, his hands clenched into fists. He didn't mean to. His body just didn't know it was safe to rest. But when he began practicing progressive relaxation, slowly, quietly, without expectation, something changed. "It was like I finally gave my body permission to exhale," he said. "Like it had been waiting all these years for me to say, 'You can let go now.' And truly, isn't that what many of us need? Not a miracle cure, not a perfect sleep, but simply this, the feeling that our body no longer needs to brace itself against life, that in this hour, in this breath, we are allowed to soften. So the next time you lie awake, before you curse your restlessness, place your hand gently over your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Whisper to your own limbs, as a mother would to a child, "It's okay now, you can rest." Then begin, one muscle at a time, to open the gates of surrender. And as your body begins to unfurl like petals in moonlight, you may find, without forcing, without reaching, that rest comes to you, not as an escape, but as a return. Part 6. Rest without sleep. The gift of deep stillness. There's a quiet truth we rarely hear in a world obsessed with doing. You don't have to be asleep to be resting. And for those of us in later years when sleep becomes more elusive, more fragile, sometimes broken into fragments, this truth can be nothing short of liberating. You see, we've been conditioned to think that unless we're asleep, we're failing at rest. That the moment our eyes open at 3 a.m., our night is ruined. But this belief, so common and so deeply ingrained, adds suffering to what might otherwise just be a gentle pause in the night. Buddhist wisdom invites us to look again. In the teachings of mindfulness, there is a space beyond sleep, a space of still awareness. A place where the body may not be unconscious, but it is at ease. A place where the mind may still be present, but not troubled. This state is known in modern terms as non-sleep deep rest, but in the language of the heart, it is simply being. I once met a woman named Marianne, a retired teacher in her late 70s, who described these nighttime hours as her midnight meditation. She had long ago stopped worrying about how many hours of sleep she'd get. Instead, she would lie in bed, not restless, not reaching, just present, breathing gently, eyes closed, body still. I used to panic when I couldn't sleep, she told me. But now I just think, this is my sacred hour, I'm resting, even if I'm awake. And the science agrees. When your body lies still, when your breath is slow, when your mind is not caught in the storm of thought, your nervous system shifts, your heart rate drops. Your brain waves begin to resemble those of light sleep. Healing still happens. Hormones still balance. Energy still returns. You don't need to fall asleep to be nourished by the night. Sometimes it's enough just to be still and allow the silence to hold you. In Buddhist tradition, stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the fullness of presence. The moment when we stop grasping for something else and simply allow what is to be enough. So if you find yourself lying awake, don't rush to fix it. Don't label it as wrong. Instead, close your eyes. Feel the softness of the blanket. Listen to the quiet hum of night. Breathe slowly, not to change anything, but just to be with it. You are resting. You are healing. Even now, even here. And sometimes, in these moments of non-sleep deep rest, a different kind of peace arrives. One that doesn't depend on dreams, but grows quietly, like a lotus rising from the mud, untouched by noise, undisturbed by time. This is your invitation to stop measuring your night in hours slept and begin feeling it in heartbeats, softened, in breaths deepened, in presence reclaimed, because the truth is, peace doesn't only live in sleep, it lives wherever you stop, resisting the now. Conclusion: a gentle rest, even in wakefulness. So here we are, at the end of our quiet walk through the night. Together, we've uncovered a simple but powerful truth, that waking up in the middle of the night is not a failure. It is not a flaw in your aging body, nor a sign that something is broken. It is perhaps a whisper, an invitation, a sacred pause that asks you to come home, not just to sleep, but to yourself. We learned that resisting the night, reaching for phones, clocks, lights, only stirs the waters more. But when we breathe with it, soften into it, we discover that peace was never far away, that even in restlessness, there can be stillness, that even without sleep, we can heal. We explored the breath as a doorway to calm, a companion more faithful than any pill or promise. We gave the mind a gentle path to walk, counting backwards, like a stream flowing back to its source. And we learned to honor the body as a temple, one muscle at a time, unfolding into surrender. Finally, we embraced the beauty of resting without sleep, a soft awareness, a deep letting go, a reminder that even in darkness, we are not lost. We are simply being invited to rest in a different way. And now, dear friend, I offer you this. The next time you find yourself awake in the quiet hours, ask not, how do I fall asleep, but how can I be fully here in this moment, as it is. Ask not, what is wrong with me, but what is the night trying to show me? Let your breath answer, let your body listen, let the silence speak, because sometimes the most healing thing you can do is nothing at all, just lie there. Breathe, let the moonlight kiss your skin, let your heart be heard, let yourself be enough. And if sleep comes, welcome it, like an old friend. If it doesn't, rest anyway, knowing that peace is not something you fall into, but something you can return to at any time. If this reflection brought a little light to your night, I invite you to join us here again. Subscribe to this channel for more gentle reminders, quiet stories, and Buddhist-inspired wisdom for the soul, especially in the later seasons of life. And until we meet again, may you walk gently through your sleepless hours, and may the silence always be kind.